The night was quiet on the alien world. The moons hung heavy in the dark sky, painting silver light on the endless plains. A tall figure stood alone near a river. Her shadow stretched across the ground like a mountain. She was a giant compared to others of her kind, stronger, larger, and heavier. Her name was Kara, and she carried a sorrow no one could see at first glance. Kara touched the water with her hand and watched the ripples spread. Her people always told her she was too big, too heavy, not meant for motherhood. They said her body was not made to carry children, and because of this, no male wanted her. She repeated those words in her mind every night, not breeding material, and each time the words cut deeper. She tried to smile around others, but inside she felt empty, like a broken shell. Many of her kind laughed behind her back. Some mocked her face to face. She learned to walk with her head low, to hide her tears when no one was looking. Tonight, she whispered to herself, "Maybe they are right. Maybe I am too big to be loved." Far away, a human explorer named David walked carefully along the plains. He had come to this world to study plants and minerals, but fate brought him near the river. When he saw the tall alien woman standing alone, he stopped. His heart felt heavy, as if he could sense her pain even from a distance. David had heard whispers in the town about a giant female who was different from the rest. They said she was strange, unwanted, cursed. But when he saw her, he didn't see a curse. He saw a lonely figure staring at the river like she was waiting for it to swallow her sorrow. Kara heard footsteps and turned quickly, her glowing eyes locked on the small figure of the human. She felt panic rise inside. Humans were different. Smaller, fragile. She thought surely he would laugh at her too. She stepped back and said in a low voice, "Stay away, human. You will only mock me, like the others." David didn't move. He raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. "I won't mock you," he said softly. His voice carried calmness. "I only saw someone who looked sad." Her chest tightened. No one had ever spoken to her with kindness like that. She narrowed her eyes. "Why would you care about a giant like me, human? I am not worth your time." David shook his head. He walked a step closer, though she towered over him like a mountain. "Worth is not about size," he replied. "Worth is about heart. And I can see yours is heavy with pain." Kara's throat ached. She wanted to turn away, but his words held her still. His eyes did not show fear. They showed care, and that scared her more than hatred. For hatred she knew how to face, but kindness was dangerous. It could break her walls. She whispered again, "You don't understand. I am too big, my people say I am not breeding material. They say I can never give life. What good is a female who cannot give life?" Her voice cracked and she clenched her fists. The words came out like poison she had swallowed too long. David listened. His heart burned with anger at the cruelty of her people. He stepped closer, close enough to touch her massive hand resting near her side. Slowly, gently, he placed his small hand on hers. "You are not useless," he said firmly. "You are not broken. You are more than what they call you." Kara froze. Her breath caught as she felt the warmth of his touch. No one had ever dared to touch her in comfort. Her kind only touched her to push her away. She looked down at the small human hand, on her giant one. Her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. "You are brave, human," she whispered, her voice shaking. "But you do not know what it means to be me, to be seen as nothing but a mistake." David met her gaze. "Then let me learn," he said. "Let me stand here with you. If you are a mistake, then you are the most beautiful mistake I have ever seen." Her lips trembled. She wanted to laugh, to push him away. But the truth was different. His words reached a place inside her that had been empty for so long. A place that longed to be seen. The river moved quietly behind them. The night seemed to pause. Kara's towering figure no longer looked like a shadow of shame, but like a strong monument under the moonlight. For the first time, she did not feel completely alone. For the first time, someone had chosen to stand with her, not against her. Still, doubt whispered inside her mind. Could this small human truly mean what he said? Could he see her as more than a giant, unworthy of love? Her heart pounded as she looked into his eyes. The fear inside her battled with a tiny spark of hope. The giant's fear was not just about her size. It was about letting herself believe that maybe, just maybe, someone could love her despite it. And tonight, under the pale moons, that battle had only just begun. The night air carried silence after Kara's trembling words. Her giant figure stood stiff, her heart heavy, and yet her eyes could not leave the small human who dared to touch. Her hand, David's palm, rested against her skin, tiny compared to her size. But the warmth felt like fire spreading through her chest. She pulled her hand back suddenly, as if the touch burned. Her voice was sharp, though her heart shook. Why do you do this, human? Why would you hold me when even my own people will? Do you not see what I am? David did not flinch. His eyes were calm and steady. I see what you are, he answered softly. I see someone who feels pain, someone who has been told lies for too long. I see a woman who deserves better. Her breath caught, the words echoed in her mind. She wanted to laugh bitterly, to tell him he was foolish, but his eyes did not mock. They were not filled with pity either. They were filled with something else, something she could not name. Kara turned away, staring at the river again. The moons lit her face as she whispered, I am too large, too strong. If I stood in your world, I would break everything around me. I am not delicate, not soft like the females of your kind. How could you even think of me in that way? David stepped closer until he was almost at her side. The height difference was impossible to ignore. She was a tower of muscle and grace, while he barely reached her hip. Yet he stood firm, his voice steady. Delicate does not mean worthy. Kara, strength can be beautiful. Size can be powerful. You are not less because of it. Kara's chest ached. Every word he spoke pressed against the walls she had built around her heart. She turned her face to him, her glowing eyes wet. You speak like you know me. But you don't. If you knew, you would not stand here. David shook his head. Then let me know you, he said. His voice carried no hesitation. Let me stay. Let me hear your story. Do not push me away because of fear. For a moment, she stood frozen. Her whole life she had been told she was too much, too big, not wanted. Yet here stood a fragile human daring to ask to stay near her. Her heart pounded like a drum. She lowered herself to the ground slowly, sitting near the riverbank so she would not tower over him as much. Her voice was low, almost breaking. My people told me my body could never carry a child, they said. My size made me dangerous for life to grow. They laughed when males refused me. They said I was a giant mistake. David listened in silence, his hands clenched at his sides, anger burning inside at the cruelty of her kind. When she finished, he stepped forward and placed his hand on her arm. His touch was gentle, like a whisper against her thick skin. You are not a mistake, Kara, he said firmly. Your people were wrong. Their cruelty does not define you. Her eyes widened. No one had ever touched her like this, gently, without fear, without judgment. The warmth of his small hand against her giant arm felt like light breaking through the dark. She wanted to move away, but instead, she leaned closer without meaning. Why? She whispered, her voice trembling. Why do you not laugh? Why do you not fear me? David smiled faintly. Because I see more than what is outside, he said. I see kindness in your eyes, even when you try to hide it. I see strength that carries sorrow but does not break. I see someone worth standing." Beside, her throat tightened, tears rolled down her cheeks before she could stop them. She turned her face away, ashamed. "I do not want to cry in front of you." Human. But David only shook his head. His hand rose, and though he was so small, compared to her, he touched her face with care. Wiping a tear that was larger than his fingertip, "Crying does not make you weak," he whispered. "It makes you real." The giant woman froze, her breath caught in her chest. His gentle touch broke through the last shield around her heart. No one had ever touched her tears before. No one had ever dared. Her hands trembled as she stared at him. This small human standing against the night sky, looking at her as if she was not a monster. Not a mistake, but something precious. David. She whispered his name for the first time, tasting it with fear and hope. "You should not stay near me. If my people saw you with me, they would laugh. They would call you weak for standing." With a broken female, David's voice turned firm. "Then let them laugh. Their words are nothing. I know what I see, and I will not walk away." Kara's heart beat fast, louder than the rushing river. She felt her giant body tremble, but not with fear, with something new, something she had not felt in years, a warmth spreading from where his hand touched her. Filling the emptiness she thought would never leave, she looked down at him, her lips trembling. "Why would a small human hold a giant like me?" she whispered. "Why would you waste your heart on someone who cannot give life?" David looked up at her with eyes steady as stone. "Because love is not about what you cannot give, Kara," he said softly. "It is about what you are, and to me, you are already more than enough." The night grew still. The moons shone brighter. And for the first time in her life, Kara felt her heart open to the possibility that maybe she was not too big for love. Maybe this human's gentle touch was the beginning of something she had never dared to dream. The next day's sun rose slowly over the plains, painting the alien sky in soft gold and red. Kara stood near the same river. Her heart still heavy from the night before. She had not slept. David's words had echoed again and again inside her mind. "You are enough," he had said. She wanted to believe him, but the years of rejection chained her spirit tightly. David appeared again, carrying a small pack over his shoulder. He had stayed nearby, not wanting to leave her alone. He smiled when he saw her, but his smile faded when he noticed the shadows in her eyes. "You didn't rest, did you?" he asked gently. Kara shook her head, her tall frame stiff. "How can I rest, human? My heart is too full of the voices of my people." David stepped closer. "Then tell me, Kara," he said. "Tell me what they said. Tell me everything." Her breath caught. For a moment she wanted to stay silent, but his eyes held no judgment, only patience. She sat down carefully on the grass so she would not tower over him as much. Her voice was low, like a storm about to break. "I was young when they first called me unfit," she began. "Other girls were smaller, softer. They were chosen as mates quickly, but when I stood with them, the males laughed. They said my body would crush a child, they said. I was too big to carry life, too strong for tenderness." Her fists tightened, and her voice grew harsher when I tried to join in their games. "They pushed me away. When I tried to help, they told me to leave. Every step I took reminded them I was different. Every word I spoke was thrown back at me. They made sure I would never forget that I was unwanted." David's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. He could feel the sharp sting of her pain as if it were his own. But he let her speak. Kara's voice shook now. "There was one time, a male I thought was kind. He smiled at me. He told me I was strong. I thought perhaps he would accept me. I let myself hope." Her eyes burned, tears threatening. "But then he told me to my face that he would never choose me. He only wanted to see if a giant like me could actually believe in love. His words broke me, and the laughter that followed. It still echoes inside me even now. David's heart pounded. He wanted to shout at the cruelty of her people. He wanted to tear those words from her memory. Instead, he reached forward, placing his small hand against her giant knee. "Kara," he said softly, "you are not their laughter. You are not their lies. You are more than the poison they gave you." Kara looked at him, her eyes wide and wet. "But how do I forget it, David? How do I erase the years of rejection? The voices are inside me, louder than my own heart." David shook his head. "You do not erase them," he said firmly. "You bury them with new voices, with truth. Every time they tell you that you are too big, I will tell you that you are strong. Every time they tell you that you cannot give life, I will remind you that. You give me life when you smile. You fight lies with truth. Kara, not silence." Her lips trembled. His words felt like light cutting through the endless storm inside her chest. For so long, she had been alone with the voices now. For the first time, someone was standing with her against them. She leaned back slightly, the ground shaking softly under her weight. Her voice was a whisper. "You cannot understand the shame. Human, in my people's eyes. A female who cannot bring children is nothing. They are only seen as failures, as burdens. That is what I am to them. A burden." David rose to his feet, standing tall, even though he looked so small before her. His eyes burned with fire. "No," he said sharply. "You are not a burden. You are not nothing. You are Kara, a woman who has survived cruelty. A woman who still stands even after years of rejection. That is not weakness, that is strength." Her chest tightened painfully. His words pressed against the walls of her soul, and cracks began to form. She stared at him. This fragile human who spoke as if he carried the weight of her sorrow on his own shoulders, her eyes filled with tears, one falling like a shining drop onto the grass. She whispered, "Why, David? Why do you fight for me? You have no reason to carry my pain." David's voice softened. "Because I care," he said. "Because when I see you, I do not see a giant. I do not see someone unworthy. I see a heart that has been beaten but still dares to hope. I see someone who deserves love." "Kara, even if you cannot see it yet," her heart thundered. The chains of rejection that had held her for years suddenly felt weaker. She wanted to believe him, desperately, but doubt still whispered, "What if you change, David? What if one day you see me as they do?" David stepped closer, placing his hand gently on her massive fingers. "Then, trust me long enough to prove." "I will not," he whispered. "Let me be the voice louder than their lies." Kara's breath trembled. The river sang quietly behind them. The sun rose higher, casting golden light over them both. She looked down at the human standing so close, so fearless, and her heart swelled with something both painful and sweet. For the first time, Kara felt the burden of rejection grow lighter. Not gone, but lighter. As if his words had carried part of it for her. She lowered her head, whispering, "Maybe. Maybe you are different, David," he smiled faintly. "Not different," he said, "just honest." And in that moment, under the rising sun, the giant woman's heart took one step closer to freedom. The days passed slowly. Kara and David spent more time together near the river and along the plains. She had begun to trust his words, though the doubts in her heart never fully left. Every time he looked at her with warmth, she felt the chains of her past grow weaker. Yet deep inside, she feared the world around them. Her people had not forgotten her. Some of them whispered about her spending time with the human. Rumors traveled like fire, and not all who heard them were kind. Among them were hunters, cruel and arrogant. They saw Kara as an outcast and saw David as prey. One evening, the sky was painted with burning orange. Kara and David sat together near the river. David was showing her the small plants he collected. He explained how each one had healing power. His hands moved gently as he held the fragile stems. Kara watched with quiet awe, amazed that someone so small could carry such knowledge. Her lips curved into a rare smile. "You speak of these plants as if they are treasures," she whispered. David chuckled softly. "Life itself is a treasure, Kara. Even the smallest root can save someone's breath." Before she could reply, the sound of heavy footsteps broke the peace. Kara stiffened, her sharp hearing recognized the rhythm. Her eyes narrowed as 3 tall figures appeared from the shadows of the plains. They were her own kind, armored hunters. Their eyes glowed with mockery as they spotted her and the human together. "Well, well," one of them sneered, his voice cruel. "The giant mistake has found company, and with a human no less." David stood up quickly, his body tense, though he knew he was nothing compared to them. Kara's heart pounded. She rose to her feet, towering over the hunters. "Leave him alone," she said firmly, her deep voice carrying a warning. The hunters laughed. "Or what?" one of them jeered. "Will you sit on us, Kara? You could not even keep a mate of your own kind. And now you beg for scraps from a human. You shame us all." Kara's chest burned with rage. Their words stabbed the wounds she carried inside. She clenched her fists, fighting to keep her anger under control. David stepped forward, placing himself between Kara and the hunters. His small figure looked fragile against their towering forms, but his voice was steady. "She is not a mistake," he said, "and I will not let you harm her." The hunters roared with laughter. "Listen to the insect," one mocked. "He thinks he can protect the giant. How amusing." Kara felt fear gnawed inside her chest. David was brave, but he was too small. He could crush him with a single strike. "David, step back," she whispered urgently. "Please, they will hurt you." But David shook his head, never moving from his place. His eyes locked on the hunters. "If they want to touch you, they must go through me first." The hunters' laughter faded into smirks. They stepped closer, circling like predators. One reached for David with a cruel grin. "Let us see how strong this insect's courage really is." Kara moved before she could think. Her massive hand struck the ground between them, dirt flying into the air. Her voice thundered, "Enough." The earth shook beneath her fury. The hunter stepped back slightly, surprised at her sudden power. Kara's glowing eyes burned with fire. "You will not touch him," she growled. "You will not mock him, and you will not mock me." For a moment, silence filled the air. The hunters exchanged uneasy glances. They had mocked her for years, but they had never seen her stand like this. One spat on the ground. "You defend him as if he is your mate," he sneered. "Do you truly believe a human can give you what our kind never would?" Kara's throat tightened. The words hit her deep, stirring old wounds. But then she felt David's hand touch her side gently, steadying her. His small voice rose with fierce strength. "I believe it," he said. "I believe she deserves love, and I will give it to her." Kara's eyes widened. The hunters looked stunned for a moment. Then their laughter returned, louder than before. Pathetic. One hissed, "Let us leave them. The giant is lost, and the human is a fool." They turned and vanished into the plains, their mocking voices fading with the wind. But the damage was done. Kara sank to her knees, trembling. Her body shook, as if the hunter's words had struck her harder than any blade. David rushed to her, sighed, placing his hand on her arm. "Kara, look at me," he said softly. "Do not listen to them. Their words mean nothing." Her tears fell freely, soaking the earth beneath her. "You do not understand, David," she whispered. "They will not stop. They will shame me until the end of my days, and now they will mock you too. I have dragged you into my curse." David's voice was firm. No, Kara, you have not cursed me. You have given me purpose. She looked at him, her giant frame trembling. Why do you not leave me, David? Why do you risk yourself for me? David's eyes held hers without fear. Because you are worth it, he said softly. Because I would rather stand here with you against the whole world than live safe and empty without you. Her heart broke open, her tears poured. But this time they carried not just sorrow, but something new. Something fragile. The hunters had tried to tear her down, but David's courage had built her up again. In that moment, Kara realized something she had never dared to believe. The human who stood before her did not see her as a mistake. He saw her as someone worth fighting for, and in his eyes, she was not too big, not too broken. She was simply Kara, and that was enough. The night after the hunters left was heavy. With silence, Kara sat near the river, her giant form hunched low. Her glowing eyes stared at the water, but saw nothing. The cruel words of the hunters echoed in her head, louder than the river's song. She felt like a wound that would never heal. David sat beside her, small compared to her towering frame. He looked at her face, seeing the weight pressing down on her soul. He had fought to protect her, but he knew the true battle was inside her. Heart, Kara, he said softly. Talk to me. Her lips trembled. She wanted to stay silent, to keep the darkness locked inside, but the pain was too strong. And his steady presence broke the wall she had built around herself. She turned to him slowly, her voice raw. David, I need to tell you something I have never told anyone. His eyes held hers gently. I am here, he said. Tell me. She closed her eyes, as if afraid the words would destroy her once spoken. Her voice shook as she whispered, I am too big to give life. I am not breeding material. My people told me my body cannot carry children. That is the truth of me. I am useless as a female. The air seemed to grow still. Her words hung heavy like a storm cloud. She waited for him to pull away, to look at her with pity or disgust. Her heart pounded so loudly it hurt, but David did not move. Instead, he reached for her hand again, his fingers small but steady against her giant palm. Kara, he said, his voice calm yet firm, you are not useless, you are not broken. You are not less of a woman because of what they told you. Her eyes filled with tears. They rolled down her cheeks like streams. But if I cannot give life, then what am I, David? My people judge me for this, and they are not wrong. I am too large, too strange. No male would ever choose me. David's grip tightened on her hand. His voice grew stronger. Then they are blind. Kara. Love is not measured by the ability to give children. Love is measured by the heart. And your heart is stronger and kinder than any I have ever known. Her chest heaved with sobs. The pain inside her poured out like a river breaking free. She shook her head, whispering, You do not understand. You are human. Your people would never accept someone like me. I will bring you shame. David stood and stepped closer to her face. His voice carried fire. Listen to me. I am not ashamed of you. I will never be ashamed of you. If the whole world mocked me for standing beside you, I would still choose you. Her heart raced wildly. His words struck deep, breaking through the chains of rejection. For the first time, someone was not running from her truth but standing firmly against it. Kara covered her face with her large hands, trembling. Why, David? Why do you say these things to me? Why would you want a giant who cannot even give you a family? David placed both of his small hands on her arm. His touch steady, because family is not only about blood, he said softly. It is about love. It is about who you choose to stand with. I choose you, Kara, whether you can give life or not. I choose you because you are you. Her body shook with sobs. The tears flowed without end. Yet for the first time, they were not only tears of sorrow. They carried something else, hope. Fragile, but real. She lowered her hands slowly. her glowing eyes meeting his. Her voice was a whisper. "David, no one has ever spoken to me like this. No one has ever held me as if I was worth holding." He smiled softly, reaching up to touch her cheek. "Then let me be the first, and let me be the last," he whispered. Kara's lips trembled, her chest burned with emotions she could not contain, fear and hope, sorrow and joy, all mixed together. She leaned closer, without realizing, her face so near to him now. She could hear his soft breath against the night air. "David," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I'm afraid to hope, afraid to believe this could be real." He nodded, his hands still on her face. "Then, let me hope for you. Let me believe for you. Until you are ready to believe yourself." Her heart broke and healed at the same time. She closed her eyes, a tear falling across his hand. Her voice was fragile. "Then, stay with me, please. Do not leave me." David smiled through his own tears. "I am not going anywhere, Kara," he whispered. "Not now, not ever." The river flowed quietly beside them. The moon shone down, wrapping them in silver light. For the first time in her life, Kara's deepest fear had been spoken aloud. And for the first time, instead of rejection, she had found arms that embraced her. The confession that once felt like death now became the beginning of life. In the human's eyes, she was not too big, not useless, not broken. She was simply Kara, and that was more than enough. Asterisk days turned into weeks. Kara and David remained close. Their bond grew stronger with every moment shared. Yet the world around them did not stay silent. Her people whispered louder. Some called her a traitor, others mocked her even more. The hunters spread cruel stories, saying the giant female had fallen so low that even a human pitied her. Kara carried their words like stones on her back, but this time she was not alone. David walked beside her. His presence was like a shield against the storm. Each day he spoke kindness into her heart, and each night he reminded her that she was not a mistake. Still, the doubts did not die easily. One evening, Kara sat on the edge of a cliff. Her huge legs stretched out, watching the stars. David sat beside her, his head barely reaching her. "Knee," she whispered. "David, why do you keep staying? Why do you risk their hatred for me?" He looked up at the night sky. Then at her. "Because I love you," he said simply. The words struck her heart like thunder. She gasped, her glowing eyes wide. "Love me," she whispered. "But I am too big, too wrong. You cannot mean it." David's voice was steady. "I do mean it, Kara. I love the way you protect others even when you are in pain. I love the way your strength hides a gentle heart. I love you, not despite your size, but because of who you are." Her breath trembled, her chest ached. The word love was one she never thought would be spoken to her. She covered her face with her giant hands, whispering, "If this is a dream, I do not want to wake up." David climbed onto her knee. Standing tall, though small against her massive form, he touched her cheek gently. "It is not a dream," he said. "It is real, and it is ours." Her tears fell like stars from her eyes. She reached out slowly, afraid to crush him, and held him carefully in her palm. "You are so small," she whispered, "and yet you are braver than anyone I have known." David smiled faintly. "And you are so large, yet softer and kinder than any heart I have ever touched." Their bond deepened. Each day, but not without challenges. Some of Kara's people began to confront her openly. They shouted insults, telling her she had dishonored their kind. David stood by her side every time. His courage never wavered. One day, the hunters returned. This time with more behind them. They tried to humiliate her in front of others. "Look at her," one of them shouted, clinging to a human as if he could give her what no male of our kind ever would. "She is desperate, a disgrace." Kara trembled, the words cutting deep again. But before she could speak, David stepped forward. His small figure stood boldly against them. "You are wrong," he said firmly. "She is not desperate. She is not a disgrace. She is stronger and braver than all of you who hide behind cruel words." The crowd of aliens murmured, shocked at his defiance. The hunter sneered, "And you, human? What do you gain from this? Do you think your tiny love matters? To her? She is a mountain. You are an insect." David raised his voice. "My love matters because it is real." He shouted, "You see her as too big. I see her as perfect. You see her as useless. I see her as priceless. You will not define her anymore." Kara's heart thundered. His words burned brighter than the cruel laughter. She stepped forward, her massive shadow falling over the hunters. "He is right," she said, her voice shaking with power. "I am not a mistake. I am not broken. And if he, a human, can see my worth, then it is more than any of you ever did." The hunters faltered. Some of the crowd fell silent. Her words carried more strength than their mockery. That night, away from the eyes of others, Kara held David close. Her tears wet her cheeks. "You risked everything for me again," she whispered. "Why do you keep fighting when the whole world is against us?" David pressed his forehead against her skin. "Because love is worth fighting for," he said softly, "even against the world. Even against the odds." Her heart swelled. She knew their road would not be easy. They would face anger, shame, and rejection from many. But in his arms, even small as they were, she felt stronger than ever before. Kara whispered into the night, "Perhaps love is greater than size, greater than fear, greater than the voices that haunt me." David's hand pressed gently against her cheek. "It is," he said, "and as long as I live, you will never face those voices alone again." The stars glittered above them. The wind carried silence across the plains. For the first time, Kara no longer cared about the whispers of her people. The human's love had given her something greater than acceptance. It had given her courage, and against all odds, their love was beginning to shine brighter than any rejection. The seasons changed slowly on the alien plains. The river grew wider with the rains, the skies brighter with the suns. Time passed, and though Kara still heard whispers from her people, she no longer bowed under them. David's love had become her shield, and his voice her truth, yet deep. Inside, a quiet fear remained. She often touched her stomach at night, remembering the words she had lived with for years, not breeding material. Her people's judgment haunted her. And though David's love was enough to heal her heart, a shadow still lingered. One morning, as dawn painted the horizon in gold, Kara woke with a strange feeling. Her body was trembling, but not with sorrow. Something was different. She pressed her hand against her belly and felt warmth, new and alive. Her glowing eyes widened in disbelief. David stirred beside her. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked at her face. "Kara, what is it?" he asked softly. Her lips parted, her voice shaking. "David, something is inside me," she whispered. "Something alive at first." He froze, his heart skipping. Then his eyes widened as the truth struck him. "You mean?" She nodded, her hands trembling against her body. "I am carrying life. David, I thought it was impossible. They all told me I could never give life. But, it is here. I can feel it." Tears welled in her eyes. She collapsed to her knees, her giant form shaking with sobs. David ran to her and placed his small hands against her skin. His voice was full of awe. "Kara, you are with child. You will be a mother." Her tears poured like rivers. "How can this be?" she whispered. "All my life they called me barren. All my life they mocked me, and now, with you, it happened." David pressed his forehead against her, tears filling his own eyes. "Because love is greater than their lies," he whispered. "Because you were never broken, you were always enough, and now the universe itself has proven them wrong." News spread quickly through the settlement. At first, her people refused to believe it. They said it was a lie, a trick, but as her belly grew, their laughter turned into silence. Some stared in shock, some in shame. The giant who had been rejected had done what they swore she never could. The hunters returned once more, but this time their cruel words faltered. They looked upon her with disbelief. One hissed, "Impossible! A giant mistake cannot carry life." Kara's voice thundered back, stronger than ever. "I carry life now, and no word of yours can take it from me." David stood at her side, his hand resting on her. His voice was steady. "She is not a mistake. She is the mother of a future you never believed could exist." The crowd of her people fell silent. Many lowered their heads, their cruelty shattered by the miracle before them. Months passed. Kara's body glowed with strength she never thought she had. David stayed with her through every moment, climbing onto her arm when she felt fear, whispering words of love when doubt returned. Together, they waited for the day that would change everything. That day came under the light of twin moons. Kara's cries shook the night. David never left her side, holding her massive hand, though it dwarfed him completely. Hours passed like eternity, until at last, the sound of a newborn's cry filled the air. Kara held the small child carefully in her arms. Her glowing eyes overflowed with tears as she looked down at the miracle she thought she would never know. The baby's skin was softer than the stars. Its tiny hand reached for her. David touched the child gently, his own tears falling freely. "She is ours," Kara whispered, her voice breaking. "She is proof that I was never what they said. David, I am a mother." David kissed her hand, his voice full of love. "You are more than a mother, Kara. You are hope. You are strength. You are proof that love breaks every barrier." Her people gathered at a distance. Many bowed their heads in shame. They had mocked her, called her unfit, but now they stood, speechless as the giant female cradled her child and her human mate beside her. She had given life where they swore she could not. Kara looked at them with tears still streaming. "You called me too big, too broken, not worthy," she said, her voice heavy with power, "but love proved you wrong. And this child will never hear your lies." The baby stirred in her arms. David reached up and touched Kara's face, his voice steady and full of warmth. "You see, Kara, you were never too big for love. And you were never unworthy of life. The truth was always inside you." Waiting to be found, Kara wept openly, not with sorrow this time, but with pure joy. She pressed the baby close, her giant frame shaking with happiness. For the first time in her life, she no longer feared her size. She no longer feared the whispers, for she had what no voice could take away: love, and the miracle of life born from it. The plains were silent under the moons. The river shone with silver light, and in that moment, the giant woman, the small human, and the fragile child became something greater than any mockery, greater than any rejection. They became a family.